thin and white by the time it's all over and done with. No, right, back then with the race here going in. Let me just because many of you, particularly the cyclists who probably haven't been able to see our programmes live in the last few days, just put in the picture of what we've got now at the moment. We've got 160 riders starting this morning as a natural break goes on the top right hand side of your screen, and so 160 start this morning. Bear in mind that just 2 weeks ago we started with 198 riders, so we really have had a load of people drop out. In fact, we'd lost 9 riders yesterday from the race, and amongst those that have gone out the race, Simone, last year's victor, he's gone now, and they've gone for various reasons, by the way, which we won't go in great depth on, because you're probably caught of that scandal out of the national newspapers, only write about cycling when there's a drugs purge. So Simone is out of the race, wearing number 1. He's gone. Another top rider that's gone is Bartoli, number 51 from Fassa Bartolo. He crashed and knocked himself about. He'll be out of action for a few weeks, I think. Rebelin, who had a lot of gut trouble, he's gone as well from the Gellersteiner team. A great disappointment there, because they really hired him, and he was hovering up in the top 10, hired him to do well in this race. And Gellersteiner got the checkbook out, built the team up, but he got sick and he was out then. Also, Bettini, he's gone out of the race too as well. He got sick too. Garzelli was taken off the race. McEwen's gone home because he'd gone back to see his baby son, and good luck to him. He won a couple of stages and he wasn't built for this sort of terrain anyway. And the other rider that went out of interest to everybody was Honda from the Telecom team. His mother died, and so he retired from the fray. Otherwise, we've had riders go out of here under certain cloud of suspicion, particularly one team seems to have lost a couple of riders there, but also those who got sick and afflicted and fallen off. So we're now down to 160 as at this morning. Mr. Pantani is soldiering on despite the fact he's coughing and spluttering. We wish him the best of luck today. Cracking climb lies ahead. Well, here's Kessler's been doing a wonderful job for the Telecom team, looking after the interests of Hepner, and he's talking there to his team manager, and back there Rudy Pevenage will be telling him what to do. And it seems to be an interesting move for Christie to fire him off down the road like that with Rasmussen, but well, the main pack aren't that far behind, as Konishev now, who's clambered over that climb, is starting up the work for Casagrande. Many of those riders like Konishev would have struggled on the climbs we've had so far, and now revelling in the descent, doing what they can to pull back all the escapers to provide the platform for people like Casagrande to have a go at the mountain.
Well, I think in the likely event that Kessler and Remison will catch lots, I think what's going to happen at that point is they're going to then just ride tempo, and they'll all be caught by the group. And I think that's probably Telecom's idea, also CSC's idea. They're not looking for a stage win, I don't believe, with those two riders, not on this profile. So what I think they're really trying to do is reel in lots and get the group back together, and then it's anyone's game for who can climb up that mountain the quickest and come across the line first.
Well, I'm sure that the people in Holland will be just urging him on, but he looks now as he's absolutely, yes, he's got a look on his face like almost like, I hope they catch me soon. I'm going through a lot of problems here. When they come up to him, it's normally what happens. The chap has been away as long as he's been away, because he went away after 44 kilometres this race, and when they get to the bottom of this climb here, they will have covered 161 kilometres, so he'd have done about 120 kilometres out there on his own. When they come, normally the chaps who've done such long rides get shot out the back even on the undulations, but he's got that thumping great climb, so I'm sure that he will be just hanging on for grim death, and he'll get some sort of award for today, most aggressive rider or something like that, to show for his troubles and get exposed on television, give his sponsors some coverage. And the other thing too is that as far as the Dutch are concerned, I think you'll have to watch on Eurosport, because I've got a suspicion that the Dutch TV aren't picking this up. So people back in Great Britain who often bemoan the fact that terrestrial stations aren't covering cycle racing, many of the terrestrial stations backed off this Tour of Italy this year because of problems with the contracts and rights and what have you. So back there in Great Britain, we're bringing it to you on schedule all the way through, as we have done for the last 2 weeks and the coming week. Unfortunately though, I've been losing the services of Christie, who's got to go back and help her husband build the house, but she's been giving us lots of words of wisdom, particularly since a university graduate. What did you graduate in? That's caught you.
It did catch me. I didn't expect that question exactly.
You see, I keep these things back, you know.
I have 2 degrees.
Give me your hand back if you like.
I have a degree in physics and 1 in communication. So
Did your degree in communications ever prepare for being a commentator?
No, and neither did the degree in physics, let me tell you. Except for the math thing.
Which you got wrong the first time you started.
Handy. Well, I come from the generation of having a calculator handy and not doing it in my head so much. But it's coming, it's coming. So,
right, but apart from that, you've got involved in cycling or journalism, or how did that all come about?
Well, I met Phil in 1992, and after packing my bags and joining him with his European campaign, as he was living in Europe and had been for 12 years, I then became involved in cycling in order to be with Phil, and started writing stories, and the stories were liked and published, so got a little better. And a couple of times I picked up magazines that had my stories and it had the wrong pictures, or it had a very old picture or a very bad picture, and I said, you know what, I'm sure, given a couple of lessons, I can at least get the right man in the picture. So so eventually I started taking pictures and doing a bit of work, and got a lot of help and support from John Pierce, a British photographer, and lots of people in the press entourage at the Tour de France and different things. But this year will be my 11th Tour de France, and actually this is my first Giro d'Italia.
Well, there you are. We're enjoying your input. I'm sure people back at home would agree with that. And we saw a lovely look at this. It's almost where you ought to be out there with your camera, isn't it? I mean, do you work off the motorbikes, or do you go and stand up on the side of the road and watch them all come through? How do you work them? Because this is a great shot. If you look at this, this one would say, well, if they weren't racing, these chaps could enjoy themselves here today, couldn't they? But how do you say, well, I'll try and get that shot? Do you go ahead in a car, or how do you do it?
Quite often you do run some sort of reconnaissance where you're actually looking at the course, and you after a certain amount of years you get to know certain courses, and you know, okay, this is going to be a beautiful panoramic shot, here's a nice wide shot. And also there's that classic finish shot, finishing line, standing there and getting, you know, the Mario Cipollini finish and the big bunch sprints. Those are always exciting.
Is he really the heartthrob of the pelotons?
Well, I would say, being that there aren't too many female photographers, I'm not sure he'd be the photographer's heartthrob, because that would be a bit odd. But he certainly is charismatic, and he is wonderful for the sport of cycling, because he brings to it personality and life and spark. I mean, how many riders do you know that when they first are described on any given stage, people are describing what they're wearing and who designed it? I mean, that's unique to Mario, and I think he's created that for himself, and he's brilliant with it.
Well, we're watching lots out here. We're just checking back with Christie how she got involved in this sport, and the point of view from being a photographer and journalist as well, which varies very much from we commentators who've been brought into the sport from other directions. And really, it's nice to have this input. I'm sure people would agree back there in Britain. And of course, this goes out all across Europe as well. So let's not forget that. Not only British Eurosport picking it up for you live today, but also across our international transmission too. And very often bits of it get shot out all over the rest of the world too. Some of the events, not this one, because I know in America they've been picking up some of our classic output, but at the moment this race being covered by Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwin for the Outdoor Life Company in America. So they'll be seeing the beautiful shots you're seeing. It's magnificent barrage, as they call it, the dam for the water, and a great day. If it wasn't for that, they've got this thumping great nasty little climb in front. I'm sure they've been enjoying themselves. Lots is still enjoying it, by the way. He's still out there now. Who'd have thought he got this far? When we came on air, I think maximum lead was 9 minutes and 50 seconds after breaking out to 44 kilometres, but it was coming down all the time. One thought, well, will he survive to that first mountain climb of the day? Well, he did that. He's got down the other side, and he's still there at the moment, but somehow I think he's kilometres numbered now. Well,
you know, he certainly put himself on the map with a ride like this. People remember that name after you've said it 4 or 5 billion times in over 3 hours. Other directors will know him. He's now put himself on the chart with a few of the competitions, the KOM. He's got a few points there. He'll have a few kilometers in a sole breakaway, so he's now involved in that. It makes the race interesting when you see a rider like Lutz take it, you know, by the scruff of the neck and say, you know what, I'm going to at least go for it. Regardless of what everyone thinks my chances are, I'm going to give it my best shot. And in fact, he's had a fantastic ride today, and I'm sure it's motivating in itself that he still is in with a chance.
Well, Thierry de Roy is the team manager, the Rabobank team, a very Very well experienced rider. Used to ride with the old TR Rally team many years ago. Theodore then keeping an eye on this little lot. They brought Bogart in as their #1 man. He's been thereabouts on some of the climbs. We might see him coming through here, but they haven't really got much in the way of money so far, many liras well, in fact, that's euros to take back when they go after it. But I think that's exposing they're very much indeed. And they're all still a compact team. They've got all the riders still riding of the 9 riders that started. They're all still in the race. The other teams, Team Coast, are still there with 9 men. The CSC Tiscali team still with 9 men. Lampre Dyken with 9 until Codal fell off. Let's hope he finishes today anyway. So they have their 9 men still running. Aqua Sapone with Cipollini at the helm. They're still all there with 9 men in the whole of the field. So only at the moment then we've got 5 teams full there with 9 men in it of the starters. We're down to 160 riders in the race, and up to 198 that started. Of the 22 teams then, just those 5 still complete, and this man here giving good publicity to the Rabobank squad. It's a bank in Holland, and as the race started in Holland 2 weeks ago, good luck to him to top and tail it at the moment. Look, it says on the bikes, and there we are, looking at what's going on here. The carbon fibre machine being ridden then by Rasmussen from the CSC Tiscali team, who got all their hopes and aspirations on Tyler Hamilton, who started out rather unfortunately falling off in the prologue time trial and then crashing again coming down the mountains, but he seems to have recovered and taking off most of his strapping that he's had with him as this lad gets very close now to the agony part.
That was 12 kilometers to go. He just passed. So now he's basically going to start to really suffer, as if he hasn't been suffering already. But this is it. They're well and truly on their way to the top now.
And I'm just having a little check at the schedule of time here. 16:44:40. Yeah, they're running at around about 38 kilometres an hour. The average might pop up on our screen. It does from time to time. We don't see the group has got much more compacto than it was earlier on. The pink jerseys in there, so they're averaging something like about 38 kilometres an hour at the moment. Now 40 kilometres an hour for you people back at home is 25 miles an hour. So they've been close on about 23, 24 miles an hour average so far. And if you could see you see the train they're going over now, and it's been a bit like that for at least the last 40% of the race. So they're cracking on a bit. Yeah,
what would have been a hard start to this day was that for the first hour they averaged 42.4 kilometers per hour, and the second hour 41.7 kilometers per hour. And on a non-flat day, that's quite a snapping pace. So this is it's gonna take its toll on a few people who are going to be hurting a bit at the end. That looks like Piccoli that we're looking at now.
Yeah, I think he's drifting off. Don't know where he's gone to now, but certainly his sort of tactic to try and raid the King of the Mountains competition, and there he is with one of the Phonak guys. Well, they've had the advantage to begin with of a following wind, but we've looped around now to go through this beautiful part of the world that you're seeing here. Not a sort of place that many people go for their holidays. They usually stay down the beach, but this just shows you some ideas. As Piccoli has nipped off the front, and we've even got the surprise sight of one of Cipollini's riders. That's Conti going at the front of this group, dragging him along a bit.
Conti, he's one I've always thought was interesting, that he was one of Cipollini's boys from the Aqua Sapone team, because he is a climber. He's won stages on Alpe d'Huez, in the Tour de France. He's a hardcore climber, well experienced, and for him to be in this group, obviously it's clearly an individual effort at a stage win, and that's what he'll be going for in this tour, because Mario's going to take those flat stages, but Mario's not going to be seen for some hours after this stage finishes. So Conti would be their only hope for a stage win of this nature, and this is well suited to his ability. So it's interesting to see him now coming up to the front of the main group, and possibly he was wishing he was with Piccoli going off the front, because he can climb as good as any.
Well, there we are then, rushing up now to pick up the riders who are going off the front in dribs and drabs. These are the two that launched an attack on the descent. In the front there is Kessler, and just behind him Rasmussen, and still down the road is Lotz on his own. And one thing you can see, looking back down here, as the riders can see, the way in which it zigzags up the climb. And I'm saying that I'm beginning to think I look like a plate of spaghetti. This is just like somebody's dropped a piece of spaghetti down onto maps here in front of us. He does zigzags all over the place, and coming up from Villafranca from the start there, cutting back. That's where they are now. 11 kilometres to the top of the climb. Then they go down there. You'll see the count come at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And those early ones up to within 6 kilometres aren't too bad. Round about San Vito at the 6 kilometre mark, it sort of levels off a little bit. But then we get the real tough stuff coming with about 4.5 kilometres to go to the finish.
That last shot of Lotz was looking very painful, and he's starting to do that rocking thing that you do as you really start to hurt. You get little ticks about the way you're riding. You know, if you start to move more in your saddle and really dig down for every little bit of energy that you can get out of those legs. And it looks like he's rocking a bit to the right. Sorry, to his left-hand side, my right-hand side. But anyway, he is beginning to get what looks like a tick in the way he's riding, and that would also be saying to me,
got ticks. Or sheep.
saying to me that he's going.
Well, Piccoli seems to now having a bit of a problem, and there you are. You get all enthusiastic, and suddenly the man with the hammer gets you, and bang, that's it. Everybody who rides a bike knows this. You're suddenly, hey, I'll nip off down the road. As he goes through the vineyards here, actually we came through Tiramo, and actually around there they're asking for a denomination, a separate one, because they don't like some of the mass market wines that come from further down the inland from here, and they've got their own Strada del Vino della Corina Terame, the wine road of Teramo Hills, so you can actually go round it, and that's a bit south of where we are here now, but you'll see occasionally the odd vineyard as we work our way up and round. We've got a sort of a semicircle, and oops, it looks like Rasmussen's either had trouble or now what's gone on here? He's certainly stopped. Oops, what's gone on here?
Looks like he's cramping.
He's cramping?
I believe he is cramping. That's what it looks like to me. He's grabbed his thigh and the back of his knee. So he's obviously hurting bad.
Nasty, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, he doesn't look good. He's calling up his team car. He's speaking to them saying, bring something for cramps.
Wow. That's nasty, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do when that happens. You've really just got to stop and get some relief. He's probably dehydrated, and that's causing a bit of problem.
Well, there we are, going through that little sign there, that Nivea one. That's the most aggressive rider of the day competition, and Nivea sponsoring that competition. We just saw Lotz go through it, and a nice shot to get him going through it, because I'm certain he'll get the Nivea competition today, as it looks here like he could do his embarkation, let alone Nivea Rasmussen, who's really in pain.
Rasmussen would have been doing a lot of work today on the front, and this is now taking its toll. That last effort with Kessler is really beyond, has put him beyond the comfort zone. And this could be something that takes him out of the race. I mean, that can be very bad when you're cramping like that, and it's very, very hard to recover. And certainly on the climb, it's not going to help.
I think that also shows, Christie, the comment I read somewhere, that many of these mountain bike riders who could ride for 2.5 hours very hard, when they went into racing on this sort of races, it was the extra distance which began to get to them, and they had a long learning curve to enable to use their cycling ability to extend it over a longer distance. I'm not saying that's what's happened today with him, but certainly it's the skill and experience that riders have. As he's now, Kessler's nipped off down the road, he'll now know that, and it may be to do with your drink or whether you want certain liquids in your body, because cramping can also be to do with what do they call it?
Your electrolytes.
Electrolytes.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. He's probably lost so much fluid and so much salt and sugar out of his system that he needs something to replace that a bit. But it's not unlike marathoners. When you speak to marathoners who are really good, they're running for maybe three hours or around about 3 hours, and they say, you know, what we don't understand is how you could possibly run for 5 hours. You know, they can do an incredible time in a marathon over the same distance.
He's still struggling. They say he's in the pack, but he's still struggling. And Popovic has just gone off the pack too. He dropped off backwards, the Lamborghini Colnago rider. So it's a great shame then for the work he's done today, Rasmussen, and very good tactics from Bjorn Rees for the CSC Tiscali team to send him off down the road like that. Still hanging on out there. You've got to spare a thought for, and in fact, when he finally gets caught by whoever comes up to him, we'll have a round of applause then for this man Lotz, who went away. If you've just come to watch our Eurosport coverage, I'm David Duffield, and Christie is with me here, watching the final acts of this stage, Chieti to San Giacomo, 190 kilometres, that's 120 miles, stage 13 of the race, 160 riders left in the race, and still Mr. Pantani is soldiering on, but he's a long way back. My apologies for taking him out yesterday when he didn't go out, but fascinating race we've had so far, as most of the field have regrouped coming over that second category climb, where the man Lotz went over into first spot, and in second spot then Casablanco went over, so he should be taking the green jersey off the shoulders of Casagrande, who's wearing it right now. We've been watching earlier on, if you haven't been seeing it, the the CSC Tiscali team chasing down everything. They've done most of the work today, and interesting situation was as they managed to scoop up a few breakaway riders that off down the road went Rasmussen from the CSC Tiscali team together with Kessler, and they opened up quite a useful gap until Rasmussen got the cramp and has drifted back again into field. They're number 43, Casablanca, in the yellow and the red, sorry, yellow and the blue colours. The Colombian will take the Kingdom Mountains Company, unless of course he can't maintain the pace, and he's now well at the back end. So you can see the white jersey there of the Fata Batola team. They're all round about, and that's Belly, number 52, just riding ahead of Casagrande, and Casablanca's dropping off the pace. So it could be that if he can't stay close to Casagrande, Casagrande can stay in the green jersey if he gets some more points at the top of this climb. Well, this is a revelation of the race then for lots to be out there as we're getting up. This is the, I'll say, the easiest part of the climb. Gosh, when you've been riding a bike as far as he's been riding now, something like 100 and, let's see, I'll just see how far we've got now. Cover the bits of paper up here. So he's on the climb up here. So the actual 179 kilometres thereabouts, which he's taken away 44 off that one. So he's been out there all that time, and one thought that when he got to the early part of this climb, he'd die 1,000 deaths, but he's managed to sort of grovel his way up still, eh? Yeah,
he is quite light on, and that would help him get up this climb. And I think also, as we've talked about many times already, the motivation of being out the front is great, and at this point he can smell the finish. So
but he doesn't know what's round the corner.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he's lost his little route map,
that's exactly right, yeah.
If you didn't see our early part, and they've got one of these little cards on which, actually in pink, they actually show the profile, and it does show him how nasty this thing is here. Just to remind you, 11 kilometres of climbing in total, as one of his teammates is dropped off the back here. 11 kilometres in all. They've gone up the first couple of kilometres, which aren't too bad. The average is 6%, the maximum is 15%, and that lies just up ahead of them now. There's a false flat about 1 kilometre at a place called San Vito, which will be coming up shortly. After, well, after 4 kilometres in racing it is, in fact, and then they've got 7 to go, so that they're about that bit now, I think. Casablanca, well, it has been confirmed on headphones, he is going backwards, so that looks like he will probably lose the current rights to the green jersey. Lotz still has 1 minute 33 seconds lead, and then with 4.5 kilometres to go around a very, very steep bend, and then after the next bend of 15%, there's a 13%, and it drags on up until they finish, and even the final kilometre has got a little climb in it as well, adding to what they're already going up. So Kessler here on the general classification, I think that there again they might not want to get him going too far down the road, the rest of the pack here, although at the moment he's in no man's land.
Yeah, Kessler is definitely in no man's land, but if you look at his face and you look at the face of Mark Lotz, Kessler looks much more relaxed and much more confident in his riding, and he doesn't look like he's hurting quite so much, which would make sense because he hasn't been away on his own for 140 kilometers. But yeah, Kessler's sitting at 2 minutes 51 off of Casagrande's time, and at this point he's got a little bit of lead. Like I was saying, he could take a minute out of Casagrande today if he stays up the road. But now, can they see him? Is he the one that's just in front? Or is he beyond?
Yeah, they can't see him now. It's the other fellow from Phonak they can see just in front. So we're seeing the whole thing spreading out now, and the top boys coming through, except for Casablanca, that's drifted a bit off the back, and so he's getting out of touch with things. We saw Sastre there, the CSC Tiscali team. If you're looking for Hamilton, he's number 204, and let's see, 7 kilometres. Now this is the point when San Vito, it's false flat. This is the easier bit now, so just round the corner things get a bit difficult, and Hamilton will be, I suppose, waiting like many of them for the last 4.5 kilometres of the race.
Oh yeah, that's where he's going to come into his own, and that's where he could possibly crack Belly, who's just behind him there. That's Hamilton on the front. Belly's just behind him. Belly hasn't been more than 3 centimeters from him in the last hour, and just behind Belly, or just next to Belly, is his teammate Casagrande. So that will be the point where one of them will attack, either Casagrande or Tyler Hamilton. I'm not sure, and I wouldn't want to predict who's feeling best, but just after Casagrande on 5th wheel there is Cadel Evans, and next to him I believe that's the Mexican rider Perez, isn't it?
Perez, yeah, and actually Chioni's still in there. I spotted him too, but he's a bit further back at the moment. Bogart's still there for the Rabank team. He's been taking advantage of not having to do any chasing because his teammates down the road. Only about 30 odd seconds. This is where we've come through the false flat, and with about 4 kilometres to go, it really gets rather nasty indeed. We're watching the men in action here. I've got Christie alongside me. People often complain about not giving much attention to women's cycling. We've got a women commentator today, so I hope that puts you in your place. But also, can I give a due round of applause to Sarah Symington. The day before yesterday, she won a stage into Castelnuovo on the Tour de l'Aude. We got so busy yesterday, I didn't mention it, I forgot to. So Sarah, congratulations on that stage victory. The Tour de l'Aude is quite a famous women's tour, and she got the stage the day before yesterday. Well done, Sarah.
Well, I see Jens Heppner is holding the wheel of Cadel Evans also, which I think is nice. He's tucked in quite safely there, and he's doing a really good job on this climb. He is not suffering too badly at all. He's keeping himself in a protected area, but not too far off the front, because he doesn't want to get into that place where people start dropping off the back, and that's going to happen in the last 4 kilometers of this climb. And he wants to make sure that he's not going to lose too much time, and he at least comes in with Casagrande and Tyler Hamilton and Belly and all of them when they hit that last 4 kilometers to go.
Right, Chris, because some people may have just come in and switched on the telly and spotted this thing and been out what they do on a Saturday shopping, and the thing's getting a bit active here at the moment.
Is that Noe? Or is that Cadel?
It looks like Cadel to me. Hang on. Slow the camera down a bit, because he's a bit more chunky and it's all over the place. No,
it's Noe.
It is. Yeah, it's Noe. Right, because he's going to get blowing all over the place now, Christie. I think some people have come in from doing their shopping or mowing the lawn, taking a dog for a walk, whatever, or perhaps club lads have gone out for a bit of a ride. Can we just quickly run down because of the pink jersey, and I think he's going to still be there. So if we look at the general classification here, and just then isolate that little group, right? Okay. Here we go. Then this is a look at the overall classification as they start to hit the mountain.
The general classification shows Jens Heppner in first place, and following him, the closest is Casagrande in second place with 2 minutes 58. Casagrande.
Sorry, it wasn't. It was Cioni.
It's Cioni.
Yeah. I have to say, because he comes from Reading.
No, that's okay.
Off you go. I interrupted. Off you go.
So with Heppner at, with Casagrande at 2 minutes 58, and Salvadelli at 3 minutes 43, Escartin at 3 minutes 46, Belli at 3 minutes 55, Frigo, who is not in this group any longer. I think he's had some difficulties, or has he rejoined?
He rejoined, but if he's had it once, he could well have it again.
He's at 4 minutes off Heppner. Cadel Evans 4:03 off Heppner. Noe is 4 minutes 22. Hamilton at 4 minutes 26. And I'm going to add Mazzolini today because he has maintained a good position. He's making a good race, and he's making it very animated. So he's going back on my list for general classification at 4 minutes 43. But if we want to flip this upside down and look at what we're really talking about for general classification, putting Casagrande at 0, Salvadelli is only 45 seconds off of Casagrande, Escartin 48, Belli 57, Frigo 102, Evans 105, Noe 1 minute 24, Hamilton 1 minute 28, and Mazzolini at 1 minute and about, it looks like 35 or something close thereabouts. But there's a lot of people in this group who would have some big aspirations for today, not only for the stage, but for the general classification. So I think it's going to get pretty interesting in about, I don't know, couple of kilometers. What do you think, David?
Well, it's all happening now, because this is the point, the last 4.5 kilometers, when things get very difficult indeed. Then you can see Kessa now been overtaken by Cioni, gone rocketing past him, and that's De Jong who's come up too. And there we've also got Tonkov, who's been past winner of this race, and he's been lying doggo in the main field for an awful long time. He's a bit down on the general classification, Tonkov, but 2 days like this and he can suddenly start to move back again. Very cagey rider, very experienced rider, specialist again at the big tours, and today he started to go. That's an amazing start. We see nothing. I mean, Tonkov now is starting to rip along here. That's a great ride by Tonkov, and certainly fairly well down on GC, but nevertheless a threat.
He's definitely in there. You can never rule out a rider like Tonkov. He's just over 2 minutes off the pace of Casagrande, so he is clearly a danger man for Lampre, and this may explain why Lampre has been quiet and then not quiet, quiet then not quiet, but not going for the real opportunities. And certainly they would be trying to get him away as much as they can. And Cioni here is also, I mean, having a fantastic ride, and he's got his 2 general classification riders back in that pack too, with Evans and Noe.
Yes, because although Evans and Noe are nicely placed in the overall classification, the map here really got started. We see him pouring past here at the moment. Good afternoon. How are you going? Poor old Lutz then. Anyway, round of applause.
That was quite an effort, yeah.
I'm sure that Lutz would have had a well done mate as he went past there. So it's now Cioni with 4 kilometres, and this is the nasty little bit here, 4 kilometres to go. Just ahead of him is going to be again that sharp twist on the road. So Casagrande starts to go, Cadel Evans just behind him, and Lutz comes straight back very quickly indeed. A great ride by that man who went away after 44 kilometres of racing. This particular point, they're about 4 kilometres to finish of the stage today, which covers 190 kilometres in all. So Lutz, no wonder he's dropping back, but here Hepner just has to control those last 4 kilometres, has to stay close on the overall classification as he can still see the top men away, but can he keep that pink jersey today? I don't know what you think. I think he could well keep the pink jersey today, but it's going to be very close at the end.
Oh, it will be close. He cannot afford to lose more than 45 seconds per kilometer on Casagrande, and for the most part everybody else. So he has to, Hepner there in the pink jersey, in the pink leader's jersey, that is, not the magenta jersey of his team. He will have to focus and really dig deep to keep it, because he knows that should he keep it today, then he has a darn good chance of keeping it tomorrow as well in the time trial. So this is going to be a huge effort for Hepner just to stay with Casagrande and the others on this 4 kilometers of really, really tough climbing.
Be careful where you put the trident. And now here comes Tonkov up. This is typical Tonkov. He has been in a bit of a, I would say, cloud over recent years. He hasn't really sort of emerged and shone like the beacon he did some years ago, but he's still got the skill and the experience, and he's now gone away here. And Tonkov at 5 minutes 18 seconds down on Hepner. If the rest of them play around and don't do anything about it, this man could go on to get the stage and get 12 seconds bonus as well. And Hepner probably can keep an eye on people like Casagrande and the rest of them, but he'll have to know more about what's happening there. And as the rest of the field here begin to split all over the place, Perez then charging up the climb now at the moment.
It looks like Cadel is holding his wheel, but Cadel's putting a lot of effort into his pedaling. As you can see, he's wrestling with the bike a bit, and it looks like he's hurting, but I didn't see Hamilton in front of him. I think Hamilton's behind him, which would be a wonderful thing. It'd be nice to see Cadel jump up a little bit. He's just passed his teammate Noe there, and I think that was Noe he passed.
So
there's Cadel. Cadel's attacking.
Here comes Perez. Perez is coming, and Cadel's with him too as well. So, and Cadel's is he going to attack Tonkov? An amazing thing is attacking now, but they've got nothing to lose, these Mapei team riders. Tonkov looks one way, sees Cadel, the other way sees Perez. Interesting two riders, one from Mexico, one from Australia, overtaking here the Italian in the Giro d'Italia. What a day we're having.
This is exactly the kind of ride which is suited well to Cadel Evans and his ability. He is the kind of rider who can focus, and I mean focus without anything coming in his way. He climbs fantastically, he's good on the bike, and he knows tactically when to attack and when to go. He won't even worry about Perez being there. He'll just do his own thing, and he'll ride his own race, and that's what's going to make the difference here between him and Perez. He won't be playing cat and mouse with Perez at all. He'll just ride his own race for sure.
And Perez twitching a little gear, and further back the pink jersey of Hepner struggling. He's lost contact with the group. Cioni's back in the main packet. Escartin in the yellow with his strange knee out operation. He looks you know, like he's got saddle sore the way he rides with his knees out all the time. Rock, rock, rock. This man is like a metronome, and he won't do like we're seeing here on the far side. The attack's coming thick and fast then, and 3 kilometers to go. The attacks are coming thick and fast, and they have to respond to that.
That looks like it's Ivan Gotti attacking there.
It is.
It was Gotti, and followed very closely by Belli. Belli's checking all the moves today. He's actually riding, I think, mostly for his teammate Casagrande, but he's checking everything. He's pulling everything back that he can, and nothing's going away without him making a move to follow. So Ivan Gotti, 2-time winner of this event, you can never rule him out. He's only 3 minutes down on Casagrande's time, or 3 minutes 15, I think it is, or something, 3 minutes 51. But he could easily take a stage like this. He's a fantastic climber also, and he knows these hills.
And he's got Tonkov to go past first of all, and now the action's coming here, as this is the flatter part of the course just here, but it's only a 3.4% and then a 6.4%, 6.9 in the, so it's not too bad here. But when they go in to 1 kilometre to go, it goes from just 7%, a nasty little bit of a 10%, and then 7% after that. So even though it may look on this flatter bit of the course that they might be able to be going at a good rate, it does get rather nasty just down the road.
Yeah, and again, the rhythm, people's rhythm gets very messed up on a course like this. But it's interesting that Casagrande has responded. He's moving now. He's not going to let this go either. He's not going to rely on his teammate to bring it back.
Well, Casagrande has been trying to get up there to catch up our leaders. Evans and Perez making a real good meal of this one. Casagrande and Pelazzotti have been doing some of the chasing and now being fired off left, right and centre. We've also got the riders from the Kelme team, and this is Gonzalez going away. This is the part where somebody with a bit of power can actually go rather well. It isn't too hard, but my goodness, that last kilometre is going to snap the strength of these riders. 2Ks to go for, on the left-hand side, Perez in the orange, and the right-hand side, Cadel Evans of Australia. One Australian, one Mexican being chased down here by the rider from the Kelme squad, the Spanish rider Gonzalez, and the Italians with Pelazzioli there on the front. Casagrande's marking him. They're playing their own little race here, I think, in concern of the pink jersey, and we're waiting to see what the gap is going to be back to Hepner, because Hepner at the moment is not with this group at all. He's been looking up the road, trying to conserve as much of that gap that he can to lose no more time as Cadel Evans starts again to put the pressure on Perez, who bounces back.
Each time they come around a corner, David, they can see Evans and Perez up the road, and Casagrande is a smart rider. He won't go for a stage win. Oh, look at Frigo's come back too.
He has, yes.
He's come back in form. That's really good to see Frigo there. It's good to have as many riders as close together in this bike race as we can to make it a good battle. And with Simoni missing, I think it's nice to see Frigo coming back and not struggling as it appeared he was earlier.
Perhaps he went back for some reason. Gotti's having another go on the front. Then they've got Gotti, Frigo, Casagrande, all coming up here to join in with the fray. Pelazzotti, the new young kid on the block, and as Cadel Evans then can't really hold the pace of the Mexican, and I think also that Gonzalez is probably dying as Pelazzotti starts to go yet again. This man with the flowing locks looks like a sort of a footballer, really, I suppose, because footballers can have hairstyles like this, but no, he's riding very well indeed. Another man who's been tipped for a very great future in Italian cycling, and he's got the flair, and has he got the legs?
You see, as he looks over his shoulder, he knows exactly where Perez is. He can see him. Certainly doesn't. Oh, there goes Frigo. Frigo's going with him.
So short back and sides goes after him.
And Casagrande is also with Escartin right on his wheel, going exactly as predicted. He's chasing this down. He's not letting anyone go. He wants to keep as much distance between him and these other general classification riders as he can.
Well, here's the Mexican. He isn't wearing the hat, by the way, but I'm sure they'll be stamping on the hats back in Mexico when they get the information. Thank you, Two Spoonfuls.
Well, they've reeled in Frigo, so he's back in the peloton with in the group of Casagrande. Perez is away, but he doesn't have, there's not much in it, so if it goes up too sharply, he could be caught as well. There's with him just entering the last, is this the last kilometre now? Yeah, the last kilometre to go.
I think it'll suit him because it's very nasty, and I don't think, so he's a specialist little climber, and he likes to really like the walls to go up, and he's got one coming up here, and this is what he did the other year when he surprised everybody on his climbing, because he's absolutely surprised with last year. He got the stage into Passo Pordoi on the Tour of Italy, got that stage there, and everybody said, my goodness, where did he come from? But the year before, he got a stage victory in the Tour of Malaysia, right? That Genting Highlands thing. That's the first time I spotted him. Actually won 2 events that year, and then suddenly in the Tour of Italy last year, up he went, and of course later on he fell off and smashed his teeth, and that was that. And he still rode on without his 2 front teeth, but nevertheless he earned a few bob, I think, to replace him. And I don't think they're going to catch this guy. And really, this is the sort of thing I'd like about you, Christie. But all the top guys are watching each other. Bang, off he goes down the road. He's only got three teammates, only 4 left from his team, and he's now, I hope, going to get this victory. I shouldn't be biased, but he's a great guy and a very happy character too as well, and he almost seems like an amateur at heart that has his natural gift to climb, and it's going to be great for the sport, for Perez here, who's always smiling, always cheerful, but just let's hope he can get it.
Yeah, he really has ridden this perfectly, and he's timed his attack, and knowing where he's sitting on general classification, he knows that if he can get away on his own like this, maybe it's not going to be too much of an effort. Now, Ivan Gotti is after him, and Ivan Gotti is definitely going for the stage win here. So he'd be the only one who's going to have a chance of catching Perez. Certainly the group of Casagrande and Frigo and Hamilton will not. And there's the pink jersey. There is Hepner. What we need to do is find out where he is and how many seconds down he is.
We'll soon get that, because Perez now at that nasty bit of the course. That's the nasty bit on that curve, and if the bunch chasing behind want to split, that's the place to do it. As we just come up there, this way it levels off a little bit. So that's a nasty bit just around there. About a couple hundred metres of pretty tough climbing. You can't really get the feeling for it. That's Cadel Evans is still there then. So Cadel coming through here, determined to try and get a second place. I don't think he's got enough power to catch up with Perez. who really, I think, is in saving the moment here and enjoying every bit of it. Cadell will come round the corner very quickly, but it's a foreshortened shot. That's the far corner there is 400 metres from the finish, whilst the young lad here is got about 200 metres to go. This is his territory. This is where they live, the mountain climbers. Imagine from Mexico, he's probably going up to altitude quite a bit, and therefore his lungs are used to the thin air as they come up towards the top of this climb here, the top of the finish of San Giacomo in the Monte del Lago. Up here he comes now, and you can see he's almost, I think, almost blew a gasket. It was so tough there, but he's timed it nicely. Let's hope he stays on course and doesn't get taken off by mistake. We've had that happen before. As he gets across the line then, and the clock should begin to run. Just on the top right-hand corner, just shows the clock back from Perez, but we're more interested in the chase group coming in the gap between them, as Cadel Evans does one of the best rides of his life there to finish just 14 seconds back. And just behind him, I think that was Gotti then, just coming in.
That was Frigo, I believe.
And sorry, Frigo, and then there was Casagrande and Gotti, the rest of them. No sign yet of the pink jersey of Hepner. So the clock then, that is not the time back between the main contenders for the crown and Hepner. There's just finishing Belly, who've done such a wonderful job. And here then, Hepner's certainly, I think, is going to make it, because he's got 400 metres to go. The gap at the moment back from Casagrande to him is 26 seconds on my watch. Counting down. Ignore the 47-48 as Verbrugge's also made it here as well. And they come in here. It looks like Hepner, who started out this morning 2 minutes and 58 seconds ahead of Casagrande. My watch is running on Casagrande. Hepner here now. It's been 43, 44, 45. It's coming up towards the minute then. A minute of that 2 minutes and 58 seconds. It should be enough, but it's a very nasty little bend that is going to come round here. And still Hepner burying himself to come through to keep that pink jersey. This is undoubtedly one of the rides of his life. He got the jersey into Varese in that magic breakaway, and he's defended it with his team ever since, and now he's come across the line just 1 minute and 10 seconds down on Casagrande, so he keeps the pink jersey for the time trial tomorrow. And my goodness, he'll go along that 30 kilometres with his tail up. I'm sure about that. The battle's not lost yet.
It was just fantastic to see him come through with such style. He has been riding this like with a lot of class and really using everything he's got, I think.
The leader of his Colpack team, who've been there all the way making up the numbers, and suddenly out pops him to get a stage victory. That was great yesterday with Longo. Here we got Perez today. I mean, this makes bike racing, isn't it? You never know. His sponsor's going to be pleased with that.